Hey y'all, my name is Serena and this is Serena's Art Adventures. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about crochet hooks. I really want to help you beginners find the perfect crochet hook for you without spending too much money. So feel free to stick with me if you want to learn a little bit about the anatomy of a crochet hook and some of my suggestions for crochet hooks for beginners. And for those who want to collect crochet hooks, I also have some really great suggestions for collecting crochet hooks as well. So we're going to go ahead and start out with the anatomy of a crochet hook. I'll go ahead and provide an image on screen. Hopefully you enjoy the view when I don't have an image or a video here. I did try to find a pretty place to park for you guys today, so y'all had a beautiful view. But we're going to go ahead and start with the anatomy of the crochet hook. So this right here is a Susan Bates crochet hook. This crochet hook is the crochet hook that I initially started crocheting with. And while there's not necessarily anything wrong with this hook, there are some things that would be helpful for first-time crocheters or beginner crocheters to know about the crochet hook. So first of all, there is the head of the crochet hook, which is the very top of the crochet hook here. The head of the crochet hook has two different kinds of heads. There's an inline head, which the Susan Bates hook has an inline head. It's a more dramatic throat, and it has more of a dramatic V to it. And then there's a tapered head. The Boyle crochet hooks that are similar to the Susan Bates crochet hooks have a tapered head. And maybe because I started with this one, I do prefer the inline, but that's just my personal preference. So right after the hook, you run into the throat of the crochet hook, and then just beyond the throat of the crochet hook, the length of the shaft may differ depending on your crochet hook, but just after the shaft, you run into the thumb grip of the crochet hook. Now, the thumb grip of the crochet hook, as you might obviously indicate, is where you're going to place your thumb typically when you're holding the crochet hook. So if you're crocheting a piece, this is really where you're going to hold, especially me as a knife holder, right? I'm not 100% sure how somebody who holds it as a pencil would hold it. Maybe they hold it this way, but this is the way that I hold my hook when I'm crocheting. And then I think some people might also hold it this way. So maybe it would rest your thumb no matter how you crochet. But this is the way that I hold my crochet hook. And just beyond this thumb grip here is the remainder of the handle of the crochet hook. So that's the basic anatomy of a crochet hook, and not anything too fancy or anything. But that way, if anybody asks you, do you use tapered or inline, you have a little bit of an example of what they're talking about so you can properly answer. These Susan Bates crochet hooks is where I started with my crochet journey. I did include a link to a canvas sheet for you guys in the description that kind of breaks down some of my notes of each of the different crochet hooks that we're going to be talking about next. So I'll go ahead and give you a quick screenshot of the crochet hook sheet that I provided. This sheet just kind of goes over the crochet hooks that I personally have used. I started out with Susan Bates crochet hooks, and then I moved on to Furls crochet hooks because of a recommendation on some of the crochet accounts that I followed. And then I also have tried some Clover Amour hooks as well, and I tried those after trying the Furls hooks. So I feel like I have a pretty good array of different types of hooks that I've tried. I think that each crochet hook has its own benefits and drawbacks. So we're going to go ahead and start with the benefits and the drawbacks of the Susan Bates hooks. Number one, the Susan Bates hooks are very inexpensive, but they are not very comfortable to hold long term. The metal glides easily along a crochet project, and that is what I really love about aluminum or metal crochet hooks. Now, even though Susan Bates has a really good glide on the yarn when I'm working with it, there is no comparison between a Susan Bates crochet hook and a Furls crochet hook. The Furls crochet hook, metal line specifically, is the smoothest crochet experience I have ever witnessed. I really enjoy my crochet when I'm using a metal crochet hook, but the weight difference between the Furls hook and the Susan Bates hook is pretty significant. This Furls crochet hook is very heavy compared to the Susan Bates crochet hook, but it is more ergonomic. It's more comfortable to hold, and I can hold a Furls crochet hook for a longer period of time. There was a video that I saw from Elise Rose Crochet, and she and her husband did a comparison of the Furls crochet hook and other crochet hooks. And the Furls crochet hook line specifically had the smoothest metal when they were comparing it under a microscope. So that does explain why the crochet experience is great. There is little to no drag with these Furls metal crochet hooks. So the initial Furls line that I went for was a resin hook, and I'm not sure if this is the first hook that I ever purchased or if it was the blue. I have a blue and pink line as well that I don't have with me on the truck right now, but I have purchased these resin hooks, and this is where I started. At the time that I bought this, I don't know if they had the metal hooks or not. I do know that they were offering wooden hooks at that time, but I really liked the look of these resin crochet hooks. The way that they have the design dropped in them is just absolutely phenomenal, and I really enjoy a Furls crochet hook with resin. They do turn out very beautifully, but I was still noticing that I was snagging on my yarn with this resin hook even more so than my Susan Bates hooks. So every so often I would have to switch from my resin hook to a Susan Bates hook because it would snag on the yarn a little bit with certain types of yarn, especially yarn that has certain types of plies to them. Like I did explain briefly in a video that there's two different plies of yarn. There's either like an S twist or a Z twist. And if you're a right-handed crocheter like myself, then a Z twist yarn is what you want. And when I bought my initial yarn stash, I didn't know that. So I'm pretty sure like 90% of my yarn stash is with an S twist. And it does make it easier while I'm crocheting for the yarn to split. And I do feel like I was having that issue a little bit, but I was also using a lot of acrylic yarn, and I did notice that it just dragged on the yarn, it split the yarn more. And the other thing is, especially when you're using acrylic yarns, the plastic with acrylic seems to make like a squeaking noise, which is a little bit unpleasant. Now, the squeaking noise that you get with the Furls hook, the resin Furls hook, is less than some of the other plastic lines that I have heard from other reviews from people online. It's not quite as dramatic, but it still does make for an unpleasant crochet experience. I do still have this crochet hook, and if I'm using like a polyester yarn or a specific type of yarn that it's not really going to split or anything like that, I will use this. I like to use this on roving yarn or on, like I said, the polyester yarn that's like the blanket yarn. These still work great for that. So it is also going to depend what type of projects you're working with and what type of yarn you're working with on what is going to be the easiest crochet hook to use. Now, what I like about this resin crochet hook is it does bear resemblance in weight to the Susan Bates hook. Actually, I'm just doing it by feel at the exact moment, but it might be slightly lighter than the Susan Bates crochet hook, but with the ergonomic handle. So that is fantastic. I did recently find something with the Susan Bates hooks that really helps, and it is this handle. Unfortunately, I tried to put this handle on the wrong size hook. I do believe I tried to put it on one or two sizes bigger than what it's supposed to fit. So now I have to have the task of getting this hook handle off of here. But I still wanted to show you guys like an example of if you get this little grip when you're working with the Susan Bates hook, it will help with the ergonomics and it will help you hold your hook for longer. So I do highly suggest the hook holders on the Susan Bates hook. So if you go with these, just get a cheap little hook holder and it will work fairly similarly to something like this Furls crochet hook. Now, Furls crochet hooks, in my opinion, they are pretty spendy compared to other crochet hooks especially the Susan Bates line. But the Clover Amour hooks are fairly expensive as well. Now, I don't have any on me at this time. I only keep some of my crochet hooks on the truck. I leave other crochet hooks at home and at my mom's house, which are the other two places that I frequent. So I don't have one to show you in person, but I did go ahead and source some photos online to kind of show you the Clover Amour hook. What's really great about the Clover Amour hook is it takes the best of both the Furls and the Susan Bates hooks and it puts them together. It does have a really good metal head. Most people don't experience a lot of drag on the Clover Amour hooks. Me personally, I still prefer the Furls metal hook as far as any drag is concerned, but the Clover Amour hook is a close second. The Clover Amour hook is also more lightweight than the metal Furls hook, but it has the thumb grip. So it has the ergonomics that the Furls crochet hook offers, but it has a little bit more lightweight than like the metal Furls hook, and it also has the thumb grip that's the positive part of the Susan Bates crochet hook. So I wanted to share with you guys a little bit of information about where I started and the different crochet hooks that I used to begin with. But I do have to say, as far as the Clover Amour hooks, they can get quite spendy. I did find some Clover Amour hook sets from Michaels that were like $100, and I did post about that in one of my shorts. And then I got a tip that somebody was able to buy the same set, the Clover Amour hook set, on Amazon for about $50. And I checked online as well, and I did find that hook set online on Amazon for $50. So don't waste your money at Michaels. Go to Amazon and get yourself a cheaper set if you're going to get the Clover Amour hooks. That is just my little tidbit of advice. I do prefer to shop in person typically, and when I do shop in person, I don't always go and look for online pricing. But after seeing that significant price change between Amazon and Michaels, I feel like I'm probably going to be checking for price comparisons on more things as I go and shop at Michaels. I do foresee myself shopping more at Michaels now that Joann is closed. It is sad that we lost Joann, but honestly, I haven't been to a Michaels yet. I've only been to a couple of local yarn shops since Joann closed. I went to Louisville Fiber Supply, and then I went to Yarnivore in San Antonio, Texas. And those are the only two places I've bought yarn since Joann closed. Since I do have a few different home locations, I do tend to keep some of my yarn stash in those locations. Then when I'm over the road for long periods of time, if I don't bring enough yarn, I do have to stop and purchase some. And that's the only reason that I purchased any in Louisville and any in San Antonio. Because trust me, I just did a yarn organization where I just cleaned up all the yarn over at my mom's house, and I know I have more yarn at my house that I have cleaned up last time I was home too, but I haven't been home in like a year for any significant period of time. I've swung by for a day or two, but not any significant period of time. So about a year ago, I organized my crochet stash at home, and about a month ago, I organized my crochet stash at my mom's house. So I have recently kind of cleaned that up a little bit, but I did want to note that the Furls crochet hooks have gone down in price since I last purchased from Furls, which is interesting. I think they were originally at like $25, and when I went online to check for them this time, they were like $18.20 a piece. And I was a little bit curious about that, so I did a little bit of research, and I did find some other companies that I think are trying to compete with the Furls crochet hooks, and that might be why Furls brought their price down a little bit. The company specifically that I'm going to mention here that I saw that was competing with them is Ophireco, Ophireco. Ophireco, I do believe that's right. Anyway, I'll put an image up here for you guys. But they only have, when I was looking through their website, I was only able to find wooden and resin crochet hooks. They don't have the metal crochet hooks, and I'm sorry, it's just my personal opinion. I haven't found a better, more easy glide hook than the Furls crochet hook. So they're still my OG. I really like them. I did see that they came out with a matte line recently, and they came out with a pistachio color. So I'd love to pick up some of the matte, some of the pistachio color, maybe some of the pistachio in matte. I don't know, but I have to be careful that I only buy crochet hooks when I need them. But sometimes there's limited drops, and it's really hard for me not to pick up at least one or two before that limited drop is over. So that's one of the biggest things about crochet hooks. Once you get away from the basics, which I would call the Susan Bates hook a basic hook, and then the Clover Amour is technically a basic hook as well. They come in a very limited set, like the colors are all the same for every size. I mean, they have different colors, but every size is the same color, and they don't have any that I've seen specifically, any kind of special colorways or anything like that they come out with very often. I think I did see once a pink set that they released and maybe a pastel set that they released, but really they're not like something that I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful hook and I want to collect it. It really is kind of more your standard crochet hook if you ask me. And the reason I wanted to talk a little bit about the crochet hooks that are a little bit more of a collector's item is what I'd say, is because everybody has their own style. There are tons of really neat artists on Etsy that share their crochet hooks as well, and their crochet hooks are really cool. I know that Wickedly Handmade has done some shows where her husband makes some crochet hooks and they sell their crochet hooks at these different like fairs and shows and stuff like that they go to, and I'm pretty sure they always sell out because I've never actually seen her sell them on her Etsy page. Like, she sells some of her patterns on her Etsy and some stitch markers, but to my knowledge I haven't seen any of their crochet hooks, so I'm pretty sure they usually sell out. If you're going to collect crochet hooks, once you know what your favorite size hook is or what you're going to be using most often, maybe you like a 5.5 and a 3.5, maybe those are the two sizes you use the most, definitely start picking up yourself some collectible crochet hooks if you want to. And some of the collectible crochet hooks are not the most comfortable crochet hooks. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes they really kind of are more so for decoration than usability. I've seen some really neat crochet hooks, but not all of them look like they're going to be comfortable to crochet with. So if you're looking for comfort and practicality, just go with something fairly basic for now, whether it's Fire Co. or Furls, Susan Bates or Boyle, or Clover Amour. Those are some great places to start. I know that Hobie also has a kit of crochet hooks as well that have an ergonomic handle and a metal head. Those are going to be fine as well. Just make sure that when you do buy a crochet kit or a crochet hook, not to spend too much money on the upfront. Try to get yourself 1 or 2 crochet hooks that you know you're going to need for a specific pattern, and then go from there, instead of like going and buying a bunch of yarn and a bunch of hooks and then you don't use half of it anyways. So that is my 2 cents. I really do hope that that helped. If you want a little bit of my notes, I have a little bit more detailed notes in that Canva sheet that I am going to link in the description below. So feel free to check that out. But I do appreciate you guys for joining me. I really hope that my video today is going to help you make your decision on which crochet hook that you want to buy in the future. I did almost forget to mention wooden crochet hooks, so I do want to make a brief little tidbit about wooden crochet hooks. I think wooden crochet hooks are great. They are lightweight, just like the resin crochet hooks. I like how this one, just like the Furls hook, has an ergonomic handle. However, I did experience a lot more dragging on the wooden crochet hook than I have on the metal or the resin crochet hook. So I wanted to make sure to give a little bit of a public service announcement that if you are a beginner crocheter, even if you love the look of wood crochet hooks or whatever, I highly suggest that you don't get these for the practicality purposes. If you do get these in the future, wooden crochet hooks, I would just say they're probably going to be more of a decorative piece, more of a collectible item, and I would only use a wooden crochet hook with a yarn that doesn't split very much. If you are a right-handed crocheter, a Z-twist yarn. If you're a left-handed crocheter, an S-twist yarn will be just fine. As far as the snagging is concerned, it will snag less. But yeah, I didn't have the best experience with the wooden crochet hook, so I didn't really talk about that much. But I do want to give a little bit of like a public service announcement or like a warning on wooden crochet hooks, that because of the nature of wood, they do tend to snag very easily on the yarn. So be careful with that. I don't know how the metal, you'd think that the metal would be just as sharp, but I'm feeling the wooden crochet hook and I'm understanding now more why this hook snagged on it than the metal hook. Somehow when they machine these metal hooks, they're not quite this sharp on the end. So maybe that's why the metal crochet hook worked better for me on that Furls line, because I originally started like this jasmine stitch with a wooden crochet hook and it kept snagging, so I had to work the stitch fairly loosely. And then you can kind of tell on the bottom how much looser the stitches are on the bottom than on the top. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Hopefully that piece still turns out nice. I'm a little bit hesitant about that piece because it looks like it's fairly short as well, but I was told that these stitches do stretch a bit, so fingers crossed that that's the case. Otherwise, I might have to frog it and try again and maybe just add more stitches to it, width-wise and height-wise. I don't know. It is a very beautiful stitch though, but I did notice that when I was working with the metal crochet hook, my stitches were tighter, and when I was working with the wooden crochet hook, my stitches were looser, but because I had to try to make it as loose as possible so that the wooden part of the crochet hook head didn't keep catching on the yarn and messing up my project. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Sorry for the little rant about wooden hooks there at the end. I have a couple of those throughout, but hopefully they're all beneficial and helpful to you. And if you would like to see more videos like this or more beginner tips, please let me know in the comments. I can make more beginner tip videos for you guys. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you don't mind making sure to hit the like, comment, share, subscribe buttons, and all that fun stuff, of course, I always appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me and have a great rest of your day.